He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
So Hawaiian Shirt Friday on the Marlow Show. Really good show planned for you today. John Nolte is here, and we just recorded with him, and we have an absolute blast. I will say, though, things did not get as spicy as my Breitbart Confidential show that was over at Breitbart News today, where I gave my take on the Kanye N-word Heil Hitler song. I did give that take. I'll just leave that tease out there. Too spicy for the podcast, but we did that over Breitbart Confidential and with Jerome Hudson. So I recommend that as well. So a lot of Marlow content for you over the weekend. There's really a couple items I want to touch on before we throw it over to Nolte. One of them we do touch on with Nolte, but it's the big story of the day is James Comey, former FBI director and Trump saboteur, had tweeted out an image of him arranging seashells or someone had arranged the seashells. He took a photo of it to spell out 86, the number 86 and 47 clearly means eliminate the 47th president, Donald Trump. Clearly what Comey's doing, and we know how the left would treat such a thing. This would be seen as a call for an assassination. This would be seen as a dog whistle to crazy people to take out Trump. And for a former FBI director to do that is obviously inappropriate. Comey's out there promoting a book or getting ready to promote a book, so he's trying to get attention for himself and is doing a good job of that. But then the question is there anything that can be done criminally? That'll be on the Department of Justice to decide, but you can bet they're looking into it right now, at least get a Secret Service visit. So clearly a lunatic individual, should totally inappropriate and perhaps illegal. We'll be looking into it. Trump called into Fox and Friends right away. I guess he's coming back from the Middle East. Trump had fired off a truth bomb making fun of Taylor Swift today. So Trump was, I guess, in a high energy mood. He called in Fox and Friends and he wanted to talk about it. I got a clip of it. Let's play this. I think it's just audio, but let me play this for you.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he did.
Well, he apologized because he was hit. Look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen?
He is a.
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing, and when you add his history to that. If he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
I let it run because Trump's so good, and the way he phrases stuff is always surprisingly efficient, I would say. So he always has a way of summing stuff up. But I agree with all that. And that was with Brett Baier. It was not Fox and Friends, and I guess it was taped in the Middle East. So I'm sure there'll be more as well. But Trump has every right to feel that way, that this is inappropriate, perhaps illegal. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said Comey should be put behind bars for issuing a hit on Trump. So good. That's how it should be treated. Just remember that if this was a anti-Obama or Biden Republican tweeting this stuff, then you would immediately not just get a Secret Service visit. You would get a overnight raid after they had warned the media like CNN to show up and, you make sure to get footage of you coming outside in your underpants. So that's how they treat us, and we should treat them the same way. So it just only thing that's going to work. Got to fight fire with fire here. Yeah, Trump was very punchy on Truth Social. He truthed out. Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot? Hot is in capital. It's really funny. She does. I think her tour just ended, but I think that's why she's not as hot as she was. But I still like that. I still like that he's forging world peace and he's cutting billions of dollars worth of deals, and he still has a little bit of time to throw shade at his haters and the haters and losers. So very good. Good stuff there. Other stuff that's out there in the news. He also hit back at Bruce Springsteen, called him a dried out prune. Check out this truth bomb. I see that highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about the president of the United States. Never liked him, never liked his music or his radical left politics. And importantly, he's not a talented guy, just a pushy, obnoxious jerk who fervently supported crooked Joe Biden, a mentally incompetent fool, and our worst president ever, who came close to destroying our country. That is, and then he goes on to rag on Biden some more. But you guys know what I'm going to say. He said that he calls out Bruce Springsteen for going to a foreign country to speak badly about the president of the United States. You heard here in the Marlowe show, I planted my flag in this. This is the angle. This is the line on this, is if you're going to complain, keep it within the family. You don't go overseas and rag on this country, especially when you've been given so much by this country as Bruce Springsteen has. So it's will I say that Trump didn't come up with this one on his own and great minds think alike? Perhaps someone in the White House fed him the talking point from the Marlowe show. I don't know. But I like the president and I are on the same page in this. The fact that he did this overseas makes it way more outrageous to me than him just complaining about America, because he sounded like an idiot anyway. I played the clip again with Nolte in the interview. So if you're not familiar with the clip, then just stand by and I'll have that for you. So yes, but totally agree with Trump's sentiment about Springsteen. I'm not a Springsteen guy in terms of his music, but I thought it would take away from my critique of him if I said I don't dig his music. A lot of my close friends love Springsteen. One of our top guys at Breitbart's a musician, is a huge Springsteen fan. Not the politics, hates the politics, but loves the music. I got a text after yesterday's show from a close friend who was saying that he loves Springsteen's music, but did have to abandon it because he just can't handle the wokeness and the left-wing politics and the stupidity of it. He doesn't bring good points. He raises really bad points. Couple immigration items. The Supreme Court zigzagging on national injunctions versus birthright citizenship. So a lot of the discussion in the Supreme Court yesterday that I teased on the show, it really actually came down to the way people were pursuing the case as not just about birthright citizenship, but about the nature of these injunctions where, one Seattle judge puts the brakes on an executive order. Is that possible? And maybe the focus should have relied more on just the absurdity of birthright citizenship, which it just does not make any sense that the location of the woman's body at the time of birth is indicative of whether or not you're a citizen for the next 100 years. It just doesn't make sense. It's totally illogical. And we need to sort that out. And maybe we sort out the injunction issue at a later date. I think the critique coming from Barrett, who I don't trust, but this is interesting. The critique coming from Barrett is that the case that I think is a lot of the arguments are focused on the legality of the injunctions and not just on birthright citizenship. So I don't know what that means, but I did think that was a very interesting point that was raised. And so we will let you know as soon as we can when that case comes down, and I'll give you an insight right away. In the meantime, illegal aliens still hurting this country immeasurably. The sanctuary state of California protected an illegal alien who's now accused of murdering his 6-year-old son. So John Binder is the write-up for us at Breitbart News, pointing out that he'd been shielded from federal immigration enforcement thanks to the state sanctuary city policies, and now this 27-year-old who is accused of murdering his 6-year-old child. So they're not sending their best. One of Trump's best lines. They're not sending their best. So it is a outrage. It is enraging. It is should not be acceptable. And it is California's sanctuary state law that really is responsible for all this. It needs to be repealed right away. So there you go. Illegal immigration continues to cause unnecessary problems for our country. We have enough issues we need to solve on our own. We do not need to create newer issues. Other big issue, this is the other big one in Capitol Hill today, is the big, beautiful bill stalling out, not doing well. It's very, very challenging when you have 11 committees, I think, who have at least 11 so far have submitted their pieces. And now you got the budget committee has to put together all of these and work with the rules committee to create a bill that is ready for prime time. And it's just really hard to do these. That's why it's much better to have appropriations individualized by committee, and you're supposed to get a dozen or so a year, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's how we're supposed to budget. I would like it even more granular than that, but that's a nice compromise. And said this is the problem with big, beautiful bills. I don't like big, beautiful bills. I want Trump to get his agenda, and I want his mandate to get going, so I'm willing to hold my tongue or hold my nose on this one. But it's tricky because there's a lot of factions here, and the bill can be modified at a lot of stages. So we're still fairly early on in the process, it feels like. But and we haven't even got to the Senate side, but the House dynamics, I wanted to share what I'm hearing and reading. But mostly what I'm hearing, what I'm being told about what's going on, because believe it or not, we at Breitbart, we've got pretty good sources on Capitol Hill. You wouldn't expect such a thing, but it's true. So conservatives want more spending cuts than what they're seeing now. And they want the cuts that are being made to kick in sooner. Chip Roy had a interesting graphic pointing out that the bill is front loaded with the tax cuts and still a lot of spending, and is backloaded with the savings. So the savings do not kick in for years, in some cases 2029 to even 2034. And that's kind of not real. Just the way the history works in this country, if past is predicate, as the expression goes, if you postpone a reform for years, it does get eliminated in future legislation. That's just what happens. It's a reality. It's an inevitability in some cases. So we talked about the SALT, the state and local tax deduction. Big debate amongst Republicans on that. There's a 300% increase to cap it at $30,000. A lot of Republicans making a stink about this, and I understand it. That this makes sense to me, is because a lot of this will affect bluer states and affect the donor class. Wealthier people living in bluer states, it will help them. So a lot of Republicans appear to be dying on this hill, perhaps at least trying to leverage it, but they don't have enough leverage, I think, to block a vote on this. But there's a lot of unhappiness, consternation with that, which I understand. And they do have, this seems to be their main ask, though. So they are hoping that making the main ask to not do this to the SALT tax or the SALT deduction, that is specifically what they're asking leadership for. So perhaps this gets ameliorated soon, but they don't really have a lot of leverage. So that's one thing we're keeping an eye out for, whether or not that stays or goes. All right, some moderates are uneasy with Medicaid cuts or reforms, I think is the preferred nomenclature here. But we think those folks are going to get on board. The White House has been pushing back really hard on claims that the bill is going to take food from babies. They're saying that that's not going to happen. But the JCT, the Joint Committee on Taxation, estimated that the bill as it is now would increase the deficit by $3.8 trillion through 2034. That's a massive number because a lot of it involves not a lot of spending reductions, at least short term, and a huge tax cut. More on that in a second. And the CFPB, the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, which we've had a lot of issues with CFPB in the past, but that's for another show, that it could actually add up to $5.3 trillion to the deficit. That's a lot. The deficit's really big right now. And adding to the debt at that level is, it's not ideal. So one of the main purposes of the bill would be to extend Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act. And that's set to expire at the end of the year. And it's we also want to increase the inflation adjustments for all the tax brackets, even the top threshold. That's another priority here. If this tax cut expires, it will be the biggest tax hike in American history. Obviously, something Trump does not want to happen, which is partially why I think he wants this to get resolved quickly. All right, other tax items. Trump is he wants to end taxes on tips, overtime pay, car loan interest. He wants tax relief for seniors. He wants to increase child tax credit. He wants to increase the adoption credit. All that's in there. So he wants to create something called a Money Accounts for Growth and Advancement, which is MAGA, if you guys could do the math in your head. And that accounts for parents to create accounts for children to open at the age of 8. So you can start contributing to your kids' accounts. I love this idea. I just think it's really nice to start building that sort of a nest egg for your kids and having a way to do it. It will make them less reliant on the state when they get older. So this sounds like an awesome idea. He get these ideas. So anyway, so that would be good as well. I like that. And a heads up to Harvard and the other universities, increasing the university endowment tax, which is great. So all that's good. A lot of good stuff in here. I'm just trying to make the math add up because it just seems like it's going to be hugely inflationary. Perhaps it will certainly be adding to the debt a lot as well. So we're trying to keep an eye on that. And we'll have more breakdowns for you. But healthcare, another priority that is trying to get more community engagement in healthcare, which I like because it's really sort of getting more federalized, which is not good. But significant food stamp or SNAP overhauls are in the bill as well. Energy, he's trying to do everything he can to deregulate the energy sector, trying to save money with that by eliminating a lot of climate change and energy credits, which are clean energy credits. I think that's probably good to eliminate some of those. He's also setting aside $2 billion for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Always good to have that in a good shape. So other stuff as well. There's a lot of details. Bradley Jay is our man on this at Breitbart News. I don't want to bog down the podcast too much with details. So go to Breitbart for more. But that's essentially where we are. And we're going to bring a lot of people around before this thing is ready to go. And then once it is ready to go, there's going to be so many chances to tweak it, change it. And a lot of the big stuff won't kick in for years, but this is the big, beautiful bill. And you're starting to see the problems I've been warning about for so long. It's so hard to do these things all at once. And we're not going to know everything that's in it. We're just not until it gets through. And I'm rooting for it to get through. I am, but it's just a very mixed bag at this point. Give me your thoughts. Aloha@alexmarlowe.com. Before we bring in Nolte, we pulled the Jasmine Crockett. So we may as well cleanse the palate with some Jasmine. Let's do it.
So, you on fire next to me? I'm sorry.
If you could speak directly to Marjorie Taylor Greene, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that she needs to maybe watch PBS and learn how to read.
I'll take it.
I mean, we can start there.
Very classy. She's a classy woman, that Jasmine Crockett. She had a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is she beefing Marjorie Taylor Greene? That's great. Good for MTG for beefing with her. But telling her to watch PBS, it just shows you the liberal mind. It's just one of those tells. Do you think a conservative has ever recommended you watch PBS? It just is such a tell why we need to get rid of the government funding for PBS and NPR. As I said, it's not gonna ruin it. It's the for any of you who likes that content, it'll be fine. You'll be able to get that content, but I just don't know why the government needs to go to those outlets. It just doesn't. And we're grateful for our Jasmine. We haven't had a lot of Jasmine this week. But she was mocking Christian lawmakers as well. We had a vertical on this at Breitbart News saying they're set on taking food from the hungry. So with the SNAP cuts, we're not supposed to have a welfare state at the extent that we have it in this country. It's not good for people. So we're trying to make people have some personal responsibility, and you can't just automatically get the limitless welfare without any preconditions that you try to do the best you can for yourself. And so the limitless SNAP program, and we're not trying to take food for the country. We are food from the poor. We're just trying to make it so that we are financially solvent as a country, and we're not just incentivizing people not to work and to take government benefits. Basic stuff. But hey, that's not a good pander. You got to pander if you're Jasmine. She's a panderer to the lowest common denominator Democrat voter. That's what she does, and that's why she creates such great content for us. All right, let's bring in Nolte. What happens when a culture starts trading truth for comfort? Live Not by Lies is a bold new docuseries by Angel Studios. It uncovers how soft totalitarianism is quietly taking root in the West through censorship, digital surveillance, and the erosion of free thought. Inspired by Rod Dreher's best-selling book, the series features firsthand accounts from survivors of communism who recognize the warning signs because they lived through them themselves. The stories are raw, deeply moving, and they're drawing parallels between yesterday's totalitarian regimes and today's cultural climate. This isn't just about history. This is about right now and what we risk if we stay silent. Live Not by Lies is a challenge to every viewer to reject comfort at the expense of conscience and to stand firm in faith, family, and freedom. Streaming now on Angel Guild. Join today by visiting angel.com/Marlowe. That's angel.com/Marlowe. All right, John Nolte is here on Friday. We love to talk to John any day, but in particular on a Friday is John, I got a lot I want to talk to you about, but we have a special relationship because you're my actual godfather in real life, and we haven't talked about the new Pope yet. What's your take on the Pope so far?
I don't really have one yet. I just see a lot of people online trying to turn him into what they want to turn him into. And I just don't want to do that because who he was could be very different from who he is as Pope. And, you just have to see what's going on. I mean, so far, what he has actually said that, a marriage is between a man and a woman and whatnot. So far, he's proving that he might actually be Catholic. But I see a lot of people just trying to glean things from his past and make him what they want to make him. And, we're just not at that point yet. I'm glad he's young, at least for a Pope. And I'm not someone who despised Pope Francis. I think Pope Francis had a lot of wonderful qualities, and he's going to be missed. I think he was good for the church overall. He was bad in some ways, but we'll see how this Pope does. I'm glad that he, came out of the chute defending marriage. That's very important.
Yeah, I agree. And he's got a lot of good bona fides with the pro-life community. And he's taken a more moderate approach on the immigration stuff than the Pope. I'm still have low expectations there given the Catholic Church's history. But he's going to have some challenges. It'll be interesting to see how he deals with things. But, his brother seems like a hardcore MAGA guy. I'm trying to get him try to get him on the show. I reached out to him. Hopefully we can make that happen. So I agree with you. Your take is the same as mine, is that I don't know. And it's just like, why would we act like we know? He's been Pope for 5 minutes and he'll probably be Pope for 15 years. So what's the rush? Like, why do we have to, I've got a fully formed opinion already. I just heard about him yesterday, but I know everything about him. It's just like, why do we do this? Let me read you this quote from him from this week, one of his homilies this week. It's a responsibility of government leaders to work to build harmonious and peaceful civil societies. This can be achieved above all by investing in the family, founded upon the stable union between a man and a woman, a small but genuine society, and prior to all civil society. That is incredible. It's a beautiful quote. It's exactly the right message. So, why are we let's keep the expectations low, John, but do we have to be, why can't we just give him a little space?
Yeah, and take him at his word. I remember very early on, and I think I was talking to you and Steve Bannon about it when Pope Francis came in, and when he asked me a quote from Pope Francis, and I said, and y'all agreed with me. I said, well, that's what he said. And everyone else is making excuses for him. Well, the media's taking him out of context, and he's, everybody's trying to pretend he didn't say what he said. He said what he said, and of course, he ended up being a pope that said things that a lot of us didn't like. And again, here he said what he said. What's left to interpret out of that? That's a good sign. The basics of Christianity, the basics of Catholicism, it's all right there. And what he said about abortion.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm actually, and I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. So yeah. This is one of the phenomena that exists in this time, is that it feels like whoever is not most accurate, it's quickest and most emphatic. And it's interesting because I'm doing the show and I'm podcasting, and I'm hoping that there will be space for people to try to air both sides of an issue and try to eventually come to conclusion. It feels more powerful. Like when I come in and I'm raging at something, I'm hoping it's more powerful because I'm not raging at everything. But who knows?
Yeah, and that's the perfect way to put it. That's why nobody listens to the media anymore, Democrats. Everything Trump does is wrong, and everything is a constitutional crisis. So we're at a point where if there is a constitutional crisis, no one's going to care, including me.
This is a good segue to the two biggest items I want to bring up with you today before we talk Hollywood. I always love talking Hollywood with John, who's I think the preeminent entertainment writer in the history of conservative online media. I think that's I don't think anyone would contest that. Also, so that's kind of a cool thing. I haven't plugged your book yet, Borrowed Time. It's terrific. John's a novelist, and his book I've read 3 times, and we'll probably go round a fourth. I'm guessing. So it's that good, and you will get more out of it. Subsequent reads, which is really nice. But John, let me ask you about let's do the Biden thing. It's surreal to me what's happening. I am rarely confused by a news cycle in the media, and I think I mostly got it. But everyone knew Joe Biden was in mental decline. Everyone knew it was not covered up. It was transparent to everyone. Everyone wrote about it. Everyone talked about it. I had just assumed that the Democrats had made the calculation that sticking with him was still the best thing to do because you could kind of do president by committee. He knows where the levers of power are. He knows who to put in charge of which bureaucracy to mostly keep the agenda in place. And he very astutely, and Obama did the same thing, picked a dumber person as his vice president, so he was not going to get surpassed. So Kamala Harris, we learned very quickly, is a retard, and it's just one of these things that is just, it was clever by Biden, who is not a retard, to put her in place. And so I had thought that was the story. And now we learned from the media, Jake Tapper and some guy, I always forget his name, from Axios, that
Alex
in fact
Tapper.
there was a huge cover-up. There was a huge cover-up that Biden was in mental decline. And they're responsible, but they're not really sorry, and they're going to make a lot of money off of a book talking about it. I have some takes, but I admit I'm a little lost, John. Tell me what I missed in my narrative, and then you tell me where you're at on this.
What the media tried to do now is by pretending that everyone didn't know that Joe Biden's brain was oatmeal, they can then pretend that they didn't know and that they were fooled by 5 or 6 people within the White House. So what they're trying to do is exonerate themselves, which is shameless. Plus, they're trying to exonerate Democrats by claiming that it was just a handful of people, Hunter Biden, Jill Biden, and a couple other people directly around Joe Biden, that hid it even from the White House staff. So they're trying to give a blanket amnesty to themselves and to most of the Democrat Party and just scapegoat a half a dozen people. And it's the most desperately transparent, shameless thing I've ever seen the media do. And it's so...
Wow.
It's so... they're condemning themselves every time they open their mouth. Jake Tapper has had to hire a PR firm.
Okay, so this was news to me when you brought this up. So explain this to me.
Yeah, he knows he's under fire. No one's letting it go. New media is every bit as powerful as CNN, if not more powerful. And he's just taken a hell of a beating, which he deserves, because he's the arsonist calling in the fire. He's the arsonist calling the fire department. So he's hired the same crisis firm Anthony Weiner hired, the same crisis firm Elizabeth Holmes hired. So he's now in that league where he needs those kinds of people to protect him, and he needs those kinds of people to spin his lies for him to try and get him out of this mess, because he has no business writing this book. He was part of the cover-up. Everybody knew Joe Biden's brain was oatmeal.
Yes.
What the media did was try and gaslight us.
That's it.
Into saying that our eyes and ears were lying. There was no cover-up.
Yes.
The entire word cover-up is total BS. There was no cover-up. We all knew.
Yes.
It was just a gaslighting campaign to try and tell us that what we were seeing isn't what we were seeing, and he was fine. And it was all partisan, because at the time they felt he was the only person who could defeat Donald Trump.
That's exactly it. And it just blows my mind that why are they all going along with this, like in the media? That why are they giving air? They gave his co-author, who I've learned is a guy named Alex Thompson, they gave him an award at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Like it's so if he's telling the truth, which of course he's not, but if he's telling the truth, then why does he get an award? Because he missed the biggest story of the century, that we had a infant who had dementia in the White House, and he missed it. So why does he get an award? And then if he's not telling the truth, then why is the media playing along now? I think it's because they want to scapegoat Biden, and they want to put all the blame on him and only him for their collective institutional failure. With all the lawfare against Trump, with the media, 90+% negative against Trump, with their failure to build up the podcasting network that really helped Trump, with the efforts to do mail voting and all of the Mark Elias of it all and the George Soros of it all that failing to stop Trump, they got to blame someone. And I feel like they're just trying to blame Trump, and this is a way for them to do it. But there's more to it than that.
Yeah, they understand how serious this scandal is, and they understand how it's an even bigger scandal than the Russia collusion hoax, because this was just naked gaslighting. And if they had dragged Biden over the finish line, fine. Then they would have said, okay, it was worth it, but it failed. And now they're dealing with the failure, and Trump is president, and all the whoring of their credibility they did to say, no, that video is a cheap fake, even though it's unedited, or that video, that's a stutter.
Yes.
Where did a stutter come from after 78 years? All of that is a totally different thing than a source telling you, Trump did business with some Russian bank. It was a lie. That's a totally different thing. They lied to our faces. They lied by telling us that we were wrong with what we were seeing. And there are two things that are going to haunt the left probably for the next, I'd say, decade. One is illegal immigration. We are going to beat them over the head with what they allowed to happen to the American people for the next 10 years. And the other one is this gaslighting campaign. It's not a cover-up, it's a gaslighting campaign. And this is what I've been saying about the media, and this from day one. There is no forgiveness without admission. There is no redemption without confession. And we are never going to let them we're never going to let them forget this, because we're going to constantly throw it in their face, because they will not admit what they've done. And if they admit what they've done and they ask forgiveness, that's one thing. But they're not doing that. They're trying to gaslight us again into claiming they didn't gaslight us. And that can never be forgiven. And we must throw it in their faces until the end of time.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, Tapper is a sort of demonic figure, and he just really is just a guy with no scruples whatsoever. No. But this is amazing that he's trying this at this level, that he's trying to pull this off, and it's working for book sales. But I mean, I don't know, like, does he need money? He's got cushy gigs. He gets to write novels. Like, he's got to have a bunch of money,
that's
right?
That's what I ask about everyone. I said about the Clintons, how much? There's this line in Chinatown that Jack Nicholson asked the arch villain John Huston, how much better can you eat?
Yeah, I know. I love that. You said that to me before,
how much
John.
money do you need? And these guys,
it's so good.
It's like a contest to just get the pile bigger and bigger and bigger. A guy like Elon Musk makes money almost accidentally. It's not money driving him. But the Clintons are just these. You're 80 years old. You've got more than enough money to live on, and you're just greedy. And I think Tapper thought he could pull this off. I think Tapper is so stupid and so insulated that he thinks it's still 2006, and he could have gotten away with this in 2006. But then he's looking at that $7 he's going to make off each book, and he's just greedy. Right. That's all it is. Right. And he sees his name at the top of the list, and it's all backfiring on him, and he deserves it. And the damage he's doing to whatever was left of his, because like I said, this is the sleaziest thing I've ever seen anyone in the media do. Try to pull this off. It's just beyond the beyond.
He's at a real arc, because he was seen as one of the normal journalists, and now he's I think the I think he's probably the most hated journalist on the right now. And he went from one of the ones that we thought we could talk to the one we hate the most. And that's kind of amazing. And you know, watching John, you used to get along with him, and now this was over a decade ago, but it was like you used to get along with him, and then now we're here, which is just kind of surreal and awesome to watch. So, what do you think happens next? Because the book's going to be a bestseller, probably #1 bestseller, and so we're gonna get news cycles for a couple of weeks on this. I mean, what's next?
You know, like in all things, there's not going to be a thing that happens. You know, the book's going to sell, and then it's going to fade away. But it's just going to be one more thing that undermines his credibility. You know, I went from respecting to Jake Tapper. Now I just find the guy repulsive. I just find him he's a repulsive human being, and so it's just going to be one more thing that undermines his credibility, undermines CNN. And you're already looking at a sinking ship over there, not just CNN, not just Jake Tapper, but the corporate media overall. And this is just one more thing. And it's great for us. It's great for us because it's not helping them. It's not hurting Trump. It's not helping the Democrats, what they're doing now. They are destroying themselves further with this. It's great for us. We get a ton of content out of it. All we got to do to hurt our enemies is tell the truth. And it's just going to be one more thing that drives them into the dirt, because all the media are now is talking to each other. Their ability to influence the public is almost gone. Their ability to influence public opinion in elections, especially elections, is gone. And this is just going to keep them there. They need to rehabilitate, and we just have to hope they never, ever reform, because that's the last thing we want is for them to reform.
Yeah, good call. All right, John, next one, the James Comey, he, I guess, took a snapshot of some art that he'd done in the sand or something, where he deleted the post, and I don't think I care enough to look it back up. But the message was 86-47. 86 is a expression that I first came across it when we were in the restaurant business, and it was used whenever we were out of like a hamburger, like 86 cheeseburgers, like it would be. But it is it means reject, cancel, kill, perhaps. That's the question. And if so, I mean, we know, John, how this would have been treated if I had put 86-46, you know, it would have been outrage, right? Like if I would say it suggested something like that would have been front page news. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, you don't be ambiguous about the president of the United States. As much as I disliked Obama and Biden, you know, and as much as we're scrutinized, as much as people look at us to find something to destroy us with, you don't mess around with the president of the United States. That's the president of the United States. That's not Trump. That's not Biden. That's not Obama. That's the president of the United States. And James Comey was the former top law enforcement officer in this country. He knows what he's doing. And when he says he found this, come on. You know, he was sitting his little pansy ass on the ground and using his special little seashells to make his point. You don't find anything on the beach. It always gets washed out or the wind gets on it. That was as fresh as a daisy right there. So he's lying. And you don't do that. You don't mess around with that. And 86 means get rid of, means get it out of here. And that's the president of the United States. Plus you have James Comey's past. And let's look at what the Democrats did. And let's look at what the government did to a nobody rodeo clown in Texas who wore an Obama mask. They destroyed that guy. They destroyed his life. They claimed that was some sort of a threat because he was Obama the rodeo clown. They annihilated a private citizen minding his own business, having a few laughs at the president of the United States' expense. And yet we're supposed to just give James Comey, the former top law enforcement officer, a break. This is the Secret Service should be involved, and the fact he's lying about it should be taken into account. And I hope they throw the book at him, because this has to stop. These dog whistles about assassination and political violence, which is exactly what this is, it has to stop.
Yeah, and they did try to kill him numerous times. So
they shot him once in the face.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I think you take this as seriously as you can. I think you should investigate.
And I would say that if it was Biden, I would say that if it was,
of course,
I would say that
it's not appropriate.
any president at all.
Yeah, and I'm gonna run down with the lawyers. I'll report back on what's actually on the table for Comey. But I think he should go to prison, and not only should he go to prison, we should make sure that it's a 4 a.m. raid and only
with Fox
favorable news
there.
outlets.
I want Fox News right there.
Only
I want
Fox and
Breitbart News
Breitbart.
right there.
Yeah, just Fox and Breitbart. That's it. No one else gets to go. Well, we're tipped off so we can watch Comey get dragged out in his extra long underwear.
Yep.
I really don't like that guy. The guy is very, very unlikable. So I'm good, John. Thanks for bringing the heat on that. Yeah, I like the radio clown point. It's a great point, and it's one that I think it's great to remember what they do to all the people who stand in their way, and then what they do, what we do to them. We just need to reciprocate. I think so. Really important,
and that's the beauty of Trump. He doesn't care. He's gonna. These are your rules. You guys set up these rules against me. This is the world you created. Welcome to the world, and now I'm bringing you to the world. And that's how he took over the Kennedy Center. He took over the Kennedy Center because the Democrats played some game to push a former the former press secretary. God, I forgot his name because I'm an idiot. But off a committee. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, you can do that. Or some court said you can do that. So what did Trump do? He used that precedent to take over the precious Kennedy Center. That's what I voted for. That attitude right there.
Yeah, I know. And just spending a little bit of time. I didn't get a lot of time with him. I mean, I got a couple hours with him a month.
Sean Spicer. That's who they booted. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sean Spicer. That's right. The month or a month and a half ago, I had spent time with him. And you can really see he's not. He's very confident in what he's doing, and he's not affected by the media at all. Like, it's not coming up. It's not an issue. It's all aggression. He just wants to get stuff done. And he called into Fox and Friends, and he had a quote. I'll read it. He knew what that meant, meaning Comey. A child knows what that meant. If you're FBI director and don't know what that meant assassination. And it says loud and clear, he wasn't very competent, but competent enough to know what that meant. He did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard because people like me and like what was happening with our country. All this, he's calling for the assassination of a president. I don't want to take a position on it. He said it will be up to Pam Bondi and all the great people, I guess, asked if he's going to go to prison. It's a terrible thing. And he goes on, calls him a dirty cop. Great. It's great. Great. Love it. Fight fire. Fight it with fire. I think. Good. All right. John, anything else on your mind before I ask you about entertainment media?
No, fire away.
Okay. Bruce Springsteen. I played this clip yesterday. It's probably worth playing again. I mean, it's so surreal. I got a lot of great feedback on this from the audience, so thank you, audience, for that. But to check this out, John, I'll get your take on this. The audience, if you want my take, I did a big rant on this yesterday, but check this out.
Now, easy, Roy. There's some very weird, strange, and dangerous shit going on out there right now. In America, they are persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. This is happening now. In America, the richest men are taking satisfaction in abandoning the world's poorest children to sickness and death. This is happening now. In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain that they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation.
And Satan has taken over the Republicans because they're evil and they're stupid and they hate babies. And I love babies. A lot of babies out of work right now. And we need to get these babies back in the workforce. And my family's a union family, and we put all of our babies into the union. I mean, he's got nothing. It's the same routine. But are there any major takeaways for you? My major takeaway, John, was that you can't do this overseas. It's just, if you're going to do this, keep it in the family. Like, don't go to England and do it. But what do you think?
Yeah, he's just become a joke. I happened to see Springsteen the night Bill Clinton was elected. This was election night. And I remember we went to the concert, and it was pretty obvious then that Bush was going to lose. So it was 1992. And Springsteen came out, and he said, just want to let you all know it's confirmed. In so many words, he said, Bill Clinton's going to be our next president. And then he sang Glory Days. And then he moved on. And, that was fine. I understood that. And then, then the following week, we saw Frank Sinatra, and Shirley MacLaine opened for him. And Shirley MacLaine said to Frank Sinatra, well, we got a brand new president. All Sinatra did was go. So that's how you handle those things. And Sinatra got a big laugh. And now he's sitting down and lecture. He's not even telling a story. He's just doing lame talk radio. And it's a very sad thing to see what Springsteen has turned into. And he's so diminished himself. I remember seeing him in I think it was '84, the Born in the USA tour.
Uh-huh.
And he talked about how Ronald Reagan had mentioned him.
Yeah.
And all he said was, I don't think Ronald Reagan's ever heard me sing this song. And then he sang Johnny 99, which is about a guy who's at the end of his rope. Great song. And that's how you do it. You use your art. You use your art to do it.
Yeah. And
he didn't, and now he's just sitting down like a very lame ass talk radio guy, just ranting. And it's very sad. I cannot imagine what a 35-year-old Springsteen would think of a 75-year-old Springsteen. I don't think we think very much of him.
This is what's interesting to me, and I was thinking about this yesterday. We also played a clip of, I think it was Ben from Ben and Jerry, who was showing up at Congress and just screaming, and no one knew what he was doing, and then he gets hauled out of the Congress. And it's if you've all this money and you're getting older and you've got a legacy, why do you need this for happiness and fulfillment?
Yeah, why?
Don't you have other stuff you can do?
It also comes from just a sense of impotence because they're losing so badly on every front. They've lost the media. Academia is caving. They can see the future in the eyes of Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. And when they look over there, all they got is AOC and her crazy eyes. And they're scared and they feel very helpless. And that impotence they lash out. And that's what this is. They're just lashing out. It's, siding with an MS-13 terrorist is lashing out. And I think that's part of it too. And Trump just brings out the worst in people, but he does so in the best way because they reveal who they really are. And what a bore Springsteen is. I mean, he doesn't even say anything intelligent. There's nothing even insightful about what he's saying.
No. All right, John. Let's cover some entertainment. What are you watching these days?
Well, I'm going to try and go see the Final Destination movie tonight because I like that series. That's one of the rare series that got better as it went along. Is it sort of embraced the funny, the comedy of it all, of the Rube Goldberg deaths. But I've mainly just been watching old movies. I haven't watched much lately because I've had a lot going on in my family. But I just been watching a lot of older movies. I bought a 10-pack of noir films with movies like DOA, which is a great noir film about a guy who's poisoned and he's got 2 days to solve his own murder. And sort of these B movies that are just so well done. There's a great Mickey Rooney movie in there where he's a mechanic and he borrows $20 out of the till so he can go on a date. And the whole thing just spirals to the point where I think he commits murder. It's just these great 70-minute B movies. They're just excellent to watch. The Scarlet Street is on this, Edward G. Robinson. And that movie is one of the best movies of the 40s, in my opinion. But I would recommend, if I'm going to recommend a movie to anyone, if you've got Amazon Prime Video, Abandoned Ship is the name of the movie. It's a movie with Tyrone Power. And I think it's 97 minutes long. I think it was made in the 50s. And it's based on a true story. But it is the most harrowing movie I've seen from the 1950s, maybe even the 1960s. A ship blows up, a passenger ship blows up. There's 20 people on a rescue boat. And the captain, Tyrone Power, if they're going to survive, has to throw a bunch of them out. And it is brutal, and it's a fantastic movie. And if it was on Blu-ray for $100, I would buy it in a heartbeat. So I recommend that. It's on Prime Video. You can watch it for free.
I think that's a great recommendation. I always like to get that. Let me catch up with you on a couple of things that are out now. And I will say about Final Destination, I did lament with my wife that Final Destination coming out is if we love our kids, we're very pro family at the Marlowe show, but we would absolutely be going to Final Destination tonight. But there's so many children, so much babysitting necessary to accomplish it. It's so expensive now. It's like hundreds of dollars to go to the movies if you need to do that. So it's no thanks. Hey, look, at least we can stream some stuff. What else is out that you're liking?
I love Sinners, the vampire movie that's set in the 1930s, I think, the early 1930s in Mississippi. That movie is just pure cinema. It's exhilarating from A to Z. So I would very much recommend people seeing that one. It's making a fortune because word of mouth is huge.
Yeah, really good.
And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, that's when I might need to get the babysitter out for that. That sounds too good to miss.
How old is your oldest kid?
Oh, he's 6, so he's good to watch all of them.
They left me alone when I was 6. I don't see the problem. He can reach the cereal.
No, my dad used to walk to the park. I think he said he was like 2 or something. I can't tell if he was joking, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, so the director of Sinners is Ryan Coogler, who is on a pretty amazing run. He did the Creed movies and the Black Panther movies. So obviously a talented guy and very popular in Hollywood. But he's producing a movie it's a series, a Marvel television series called Ironheart. And I will tell you, the online reaction to a trailer just dropped a couple days ago has not been positive. And we got the trailer, and I want to share this with you, John. And let's see what we think of this thing. By the way, the second you see the Disney sign come up, then you go, oof. It's like that's all that. No, please don't
hide the kids.
Hello?
Okay, so I got to describe this for the audio audience. There is a young, sassy-looking black girl who walks into an abandoned building, and it's very grungy and dingy, and she goes in an elevator, looks like the elevator's about to break.
Real.
Welcome, Riri. In less than 3 minutes, the air in this elevator will no longer be breathable.
Oh, what is this?
Okay, now it looks like she's in some sort of a Saw-like experiment where she's banged on the wall, and there a voice is telling her that the elevator's filling with air that is contaminated, and she's got a short amount of time or else she's dead.
You'll suffocate and die unless you break into the device on the floor, where you'll find a gas mask. Good luck.
Screw this.
All right, so this is a sinister game she's a part of, and she's springing into action, and if you're not expecting some genius at this point to break through, then you've not seen a movie before. Let's see where it goes. Okay, she's superhuman brain. She's been able to play with the wires, do the little sparky thing with the wires to get something good out of that. And now she's so strong, she's opening the elevator with her bare hands. What can't this woman do?
I heard Riri Williams was a genius. So you win her out.
All right, so you just handed a bunch of money, and we're hearing that she's a genius. John, any reaction so far?
Yeah, I mean, being a genius is one thing, but you got to learn wiring. That's not, an IQ doesn't teach you wiring, but,
It's true. I got to tell you that Mrs. Dr. Marlowe is a pretty high intelligence person. I don't think she would be able to get us out of that elevator. Right? It's
No. IQ.
She's got a bunch of medical degrees. I don't think that
there's experience and there's intelligence.
Yeah. She could be a dummy, but someone pulled her aside. By the way, who are elevator techs in life, John? Do they tend to be the people who went to MIT and got, master's degrees, or the guys who set up the elevators for us? Is that the reputation? All right. It's very funny. Great observation.
And then where does the strength come from? She's just a 70-pound little girl, and it's just idiocy.
She's the Hulk. Here we go.
Riri, I see you. I see you're fed up, waiting to be acknowledged for your greatness.
Okay, so she just grabbed a bionic hand of some kind. Is that from an Iron Man or something like that? Because
that's definitely an Iron Man hand. Yeah.
So she's got the Iron. Ooh, so this is a real Iron Man spinoff we're getting here. All right, a Black Girl Boss Iron Man spinoff. Okay, here we go.
You are not the first genius at MIT.
How come you're not working at one of those fancy tech firms?
After my internship abroad, I want to build something undeniable. Something
important.
Iconic.
It's a brand new. Oh, that was sweet. She said iconic. We're supposed to react very strongly to that. Look at how tough she looks. Oh, man. You guys are missing the visuals if you're only catching this. So I think the genius count is 3 for how many times we've heard she's a genius. And she went to MIT, which means she must be a genius. Okay. Let's do a little bit more.
I can give you the tools to help you carry out your vision. But anyone who's ever accomplished anything iconic in life has had to do some questionable things to get it done. What will you do, Riri?
You've bitten off a hell of a lot more than you can chew. I could chew a lot. You know nothing about this man.
You're gonna end up dead or in jail.
This is so much bigger than that.
All right, John, you first.
The primary problem is that the protagonist is smug. She is totally unlikable. She's all attitude. She's so sure of herself. And there's just a smuggery over. I mean, look at Robert Downey Jr., the way he made fun of himself. He had a sense of humor. He was self-deprecating. And
he wasn't announcing he was a genius every 4 seconds.
Yeah, and when he did, there was irony behind it. And the irony was that he knew he was a genius, but he knew that saying he was I mean, there was just a lot of layers to that. He was perfect for that role. You liked him, and you rooted for him. This girl's just obnoxious. She's smug and unlikable, and you have to... they've just done something with what they're doing in Hollywood to racial minorities and females is they're destroying their futures because this girl will never work again. She's like Rachel Zegler. I mean, Rachel Zegler might do a play or she might do an independent movie, but what I mean is they're killing them as movie stars because they're so unlikable. And you have to have a certain amount of self-deprecation. You have to have a sense of humor about Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone. You look at Charlize Theron. These people that have been around forever. They have a sense of humor about themselves, and they'll play with their personas. And they just bring along this very smug, unlikable girl, and they're gonna. She may be very talented, but like the girl from that terrible Star Wars show. Who wants to see her work again? No one.
So this is how it felt like. It felt like I haven't watched most of them, but this is reminiscent of the way they did the ads around. Was it Rey? Was that the Star Wars character where they just made this perfect girl boss who was they cast a girl who looks very boyish and very small, and she was perfect, and she never does anything wrong. She's no flaws. And she gets everything right all the time, and then that it didn't work. Is from what I haven't seen most of her stuff, but I read that it didn't work, and I don't think it performed well at box office and et cetera.
No one's clamoring for a Rey sequel.
Yeah, right. So here's my point: is that don't they know this stuff? Don't they know that we don't need the pandering and Having someone announce they're a genius and iconic does not, like, we don't, that's not interesting. What's interesting is when there's nuance to the characters, when there's a little hot and cold going on. They have to know these things. They're smart people over there. Why do they keep doing this? Because here's the main question. I thought woke was over, and then they're force feeding this narrative to us, which is very woke. It's a very woke premise, that instead of rich middle-aged white guy Iron Man, we're having black girl boss sassy Iron Man. Like, okay, it's you don't have to be. I know there's two white guys talking here, John, but it's pretty obvious what's going on. Why are they doing this?
Yeah, and they think that is what people want to see, and they think that they're honoring, I guess, black girls by portraying them as humorless prigs and making them as unappealing as possible. And I will say this over and over again. I grew up in the 80s. The biggest star of daytime television was Oprah. Nighttime television was Bill Cosby. Biggest movie star was Eddie Murphy. Biggest comedian was Richard Pryor. Biggest sports stars, I don't even need to say. We have embraced black people in this country as our number one celebrities for almost 50 years now. We love Denzel Washington. No one questions when he takes over the Equalizer role because he's earned it. Yeah, it was a white guy that did it on TV, but he's earned it. And then they come along with this stuff, and it's just shoved down our, these girls are going to be Ghostbusters now, and they're going to complain about sexism. That's not what it's about. But they think, and it's like Jake Tapper. They're in their own little bubble. They're insulated from reality, and they're thinking, oh, girl boss. And that's that Kathleen Kennedy syndrome. And you take away all their humor, you take away all their flaws, and they're just boring, and they lecture you. They lecture you with their looks and with their words, and it's just boring. If that girl had a sense of humor, if she was fun to be around, if she was, if she was old, and let's say she was 25, and she was a little sexy, that show could be a hit. But as it is, it's just going to be.
She did smile one time.
She didn't smile. There's nothing appealing about her at all. It's such a disservice to her. This is her big break. Yeah. This is that girl's big break, and they're going to totally destroy her public persona, and that's going to be the end.
Are you sure she's not going to be iconic?
And then they're teaching her that that's cool. They think that's cool, as opposed to what really is cool, which is having a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah, totally. And do we go to Marvel stuff, like stuff where you got characters that are on my 5-year-old's underwear? Like, do we go to those things to treat it super serious? Like, is that what we're doing now? I don't go to any of these things. Obviously, I'm not the target audience here, but I note this, and this is very important for the Soros-funded freaks and Media Matters and et cetera, who monitor shows like these. John just complimented Ryan Coogler's movie that's out now. So he's doing this, and this just seems like not what was working. I mean, even like the first Black Panther, very conservative themes in that. Like, it's not a woke thing. It's black characters, but they're very conservative values on display.
And Creed. Creed is a fantastic movie. Ryan Coogler did a fantastic job with Creed. Yeah. Sinners is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So obviously telling the guy, I just don't get it, because every time I feel like I think we're doing well on the woke stuff, but we're taking 2 steps forward and then we do take a step back.
Yeah.
And
this
Disney
might have
cannot
been
be
in
trusted.
the pipeline before, people got their act together, but and again, and Media Matters won't say this, but I'm trying to defend this actress, just like the actress that was in that terrible Star Wars show that just ended.
Yeah, you're trying to help her.
They destroy their careers because they're so unappealing. Nobody wants to see them again. Look what they did to Rachel Zegler. They let her get away with all that stuff. And what did she do? She destroyed her public persona. She could have been a movie star, and she's not going to be one now. She may star in movies, but her days as an event movie. Starring an event movie, no one's going to take a chance on her again. And that was a disservice done to that 21-year-old woman. And it's a disservice done to this young lady who's in this Ironheart show. The sense of humor, that's all you need. That's all you need. Yeah. They won't do it.
Good. Well, Misty, good job pulling that for us, because that made for a fun conversation. John, we could go on another 3 hours, but I think that's good enough for today. You've been very generous with your time. I hope you have a great weekend. John's got a new well. I meant to ask him about that. I didn't get around to it, but you know what? We'll have to have you back to talk about your well. I like that. It's be off the grid when it comes to water.
I'll show you something.
Okay. John's getting up from his chair. He's grabbing something from behind his desk.
From my chair. This is
back
the
down.
well. I'm paying the well guy in cash. That's
okay.
That's $100 bills right there for a well.
That is about 2.5 inches thick of $100 bills. Those of you who can't see I will say, John, this show will probably be out in like 3 hours. So make sure he comes by because people are going to find you in Boone.
Yes, they're going to find me. Yes, well, I've already told them I'm going to hand this to you, and you're going to have to hand me a kilo of something.
Yeah, you have to just something.
I don't care if
baking
it's
soda
silk from the well. You got to hand me a kilo if I'm going to hand this to you. But I got a well.
Wow. And then John, when he does, you got to do the thing where you carve into it with the key in the top and do just a quick little key bump. I got to make sure, Missy, we got to flag this for the Salem people because they're not going to want that on the when they air this over the weekend. They got to make sure they'll be cool with it on my usual podcast feed, but they syndicate a couple of the shows for their TV network over the weekend. They're not going to want the key bump joke. That's just a comment that I got to make. John, we're having fun, and go ahead and enjoy your weekend and enjoy all that fresh water you'll be having.
I will do that. All right.
Thanks, Misty, and thanks to all of you in the audience. Talk to you next time.